So as you can see on the table, I've got set up a little pair of Sony speakers. They are model number Ss-Cp555S, and I've got them connected up to a vintage Pioneer SX434 receiver. Now this receiver is from 1974 and it's 15 watts per channel into 8 ohms. And I really rate this little Pioneer receiver. It really is a good little receiver. And you get the right set of speakers on it, this Pioneer really can sing like a little canary. But these Sony speakers are not the right speakers for it. This Pioneer receiver does not like these Sony speakers. They do not get on. These speakers and this receiver are not friends. Are they, James? James said maybe the speakers should have brought round some beers and some steaks and a peppercorn sauce, and then the Pioneer might like 'em a bit more. Yeah, that might have worked, didn't it, mate? Especially if they cooked it as well. Oh, James is laughing and shaking his head, so it looks like I'm doing the cooking tonight. All right, mate, I'll cook the steaks, but I'll do it a bit later because I've got a couple of things finishing on eBay. So once I've had a bid on them, I'll go and cook us a nice steak dinner. So let's get back to the sound of these Sonys and this Pioneer. Now it's not this Pioneer, because like I said, this Pioneer really does sound good. And them Sony speakers can sound really good. I've had these Sony speakers on that bottom receiver there. That is a Pioneer SX750. These Sony speakers sounded really good on that one. They sounded really nice. For a little budget set of bookshelves on that SX750, I was really getting a decent sound out of these Sony speakers. But I just can't get a decent sound out of them on this 434. It's just not happening. And I've not only had the speakers on the table, I've had them in like 3 or 4 different positions tonight. And the best they sort of sounded was when they was further away from me. I had them standing on top of them Kef Cantars, and they sounded better, but they still did not sound that good. And it's not the driver. The driver is getting along fine with this Pioneer. There is nothing wrong with the sound of the driver, because we had on a Kraftwerk CD, and on the tracks where there is not a lot of highs going on, it is mainly bass. These speakers really didn't sound that bad on this Pioneer. It probably is the best sound that I've had out of these Sonys on this Pioneer was with the Kraftwerk CD, but only on the tracks that had no top end in them. The more bass oriented tracks sounded okay, but as soon as you put something on with some highs to it or a bit of vocals going on, that is where the problem lies. And it is that tweeter. That tweeter and this Pioneer just hate each other, because as soon as you put anything on with a bit of a top end to it, that tweeter is going really screechy and really shouty, and it is not nice to listen to. I couldn't use these speakers on this Pioneer, no way. If this was the only setup I had, I'd be getting rid of these speakers and getting something else, because I could not live with this combo. And it is weird, because these speakers really work on that SX750. They sound really decent on that, and they are sort of similar, these two receivers, although that 750 is a lot more powerful at 50 watts. both of these really do have a similar sort of sound. So you might be thinking, oh, it's 'cause them speakers need more power. That is why they work on the 750 and then they don't work on the 434. But that's not the case, because I've had these little Sonys on my Ss-Cp555S receiver, and that one is the same power as the 434. It's 15 watts per channel, and on that little Ss-Cp, that is probably the best sound that I've had out of these Sonys. They really deliver a good sound on that Ss-Cp. You get a ton of bass out of them. They really do sound like a decent set of speakers on that little Ss-Cp. And the top end is really nice on these speakers on that Ss-Cp. When you put music through them that's got a lot of vocals and that going on, them tweeters do not go harsh. They sound like a nice tweeter. So I just don't really know why they do not work on this 434, because they really don't work. And I had exactly the same with the other set of little Sony bookshelves that I've got. I'll show you them, they're up here. Now these ones are model Ss-Cp555S, and they are very similar to the ones on the table. They are them ones there. And again, them ones, they did not work on this Pioneer 434. I moved them about, I done everything. I could not get a good sound out of them set of Sonys with this Pioneer on them. But again, these little Sonys, the CPX1 version, they sounded really good on that little Ss-Cp 310. They really worked well on that, but not on the Pioneer. And it is that tweeter. If you look at that tweeter there, it is more or less the same tweeter as the ones on the table, apart from the tweeter in the set on the table is a little bit bigger. In fact, the whole speakers on the table are a little bit bigger than them darker wood ones. So let me just flick my CD forward, because this is like a mix CD. So if I flick forward to track number 8, if I push the right buttons, there you go, track number 8. Now this is Starsky and Hutch theme by the James Taylor Quartet, and I know this is going to make these Sony speakers sound terrible, because you need a good tweeter going on for this track. And straight away, that is not sounding good. I'm going to click the treble down a couple of clicks, which it does take away some of that harshness, but it's not right that you're having to turn the treble down, and that's still not sounding good, is it, James? All right, James. Sorry, as this is a family channel, I just cannot repeat what James just said, but let's just say that he doesn't like the sound. And I'm with him. I don't like the sound either. And I do think that this set might actually sound worse on this Pioneer than the other set. I might be wrong on that, because it was a while ago I did the other set on this Pioneer. I have not put them near it since. So I think we need to do a battle, James. We need both sets of the Sonys connected up to this Pioneer and do a battle. Find out which is the worst sounding set of Sony bookshelves on a Pioneer SX434 receiver. We'll do that another day. The battle of the bad speakers. No, that came out wrong actually, because both sets of these Sonys are not bad speakers. I really like them. For cheap budget bookshelves on the right amplifier, they really have got a decent sound to them. It's just on this 434. They really don't like this 434 for some reason. it might be that this 434, it is really lively. It is very lively in the top end, and it might just be too much for these Sonys. They can't deal with it. I've had no problems with any other speakers on this 434, only these Sonys. But you do find that as the channel grows, you'll see it more and more. Some speakers just get on really well and work excellent with one receiver, and then you put them on a different one and they don't work. It's all part of the fun of hi-fi, that is. And don't think that only applies to like cheap budget speakers, because it doesn't. You can have a really expensive high-end set of speakers that sound excellent on 95% of the things you connect them up to. But then on the odd occasion you'll connect them up to a nice high-end amp or receiver and they just won't work. They just do not get on and do not sound good. So if you are sitting at home and you've got your speakers and your amplifier, but you don't think it sounds that good, when it is a lot of money's worth of gear, or it might be not a lot of money's worth of gear, but you are disappointed with your sound, the easiest way to test things out is take your speakers round to your friend's house and connect them up to his amplifier. And if your speakers suddenly start singing like a pair of canaries, then you know that your speakers don't get on with your amplifier. And then you can do the same with your amp. Take your amp another day round your friend's house and connect them up to his speakers. And if it sounds much better through his speakers, then you know that your speakers and your amplifier just do not get on. And if you've got an amp and a set of speakers that don't really get on, then you have got a problem, and you will not fix it by spending a load of money on new speaker cables, or spending a load of money on new interconnect cables, or buying a better CD player, or buying a better turntable. All of that will be a waste of money for you, and it will not fix the problem, because if your amplifier and your speakers are not friends, the only way to fix it is to change one of them. It really is the only way. And whatever you buy to try and improve the situation just won't work, and you really will be chucking your hard-earned cash straight down the toilet. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.